All right, it looks like we are live here in the Lady Landlords Facebook group. I always love to see just the Lady Landlords absolutely across the United States. So let me know what state you're in. Here's what we're going to be doing. Today is day 2 of our mini course. What we want to talk about today is which type of person are you here? All right, you're going to get an option to choose option A, B, or C. All right, so you could be multiples, and that's okay if you want to choose more than one letter, but you got to pick at least one, all right? If you are the type of person that feels like you scroll all day long at Zillow looking at properties, but really are just feeling completely overwhelmed when you look at those properties because you're not quite sure what you're looking for. If you are a person that felt that you put all of your personal funds, your own money, into deal after deal after deal, and now you're struggling figuring out how to scale, how to grow that portfolio, put a B down in the chat, okay? So I have Maria, I have Esme, both saying A, Flocka saying that she's an A, of really just looking for those properties, okay? Put a B down in the chat box if you were a person that feels like you put your personal funds into your own properties and now you're just stuck and can't figure out how to grow. Then option C, if you are a person that has a rental property, maybe you inherited it, maybe you recently purchased it, but you feel like the money you're making from it just is not what you thought it was going to be, or honestly, maybe you didn't even know how to run the numbers when you bought it or inherited it, or you're just getting started, but you're so afraid that your numbers are not going to be right and that you're going to lose money. Put a C down in the chat, okay? So I see Susie saying B, I see Stephanie saying A, Erica, you went with the A, Stephanie saying A and C. The more that I see that, I see Katie saying a C and B, Tisha saying a B, Giselle saying A, Maria saying B, Anna saying A as well. So, all right, because this is what we're going to be talking about. So for all of you putting those letters down, you were in the right place. These are the things that we're going to be discussing. But I am a huge proponent of making sure that people take action every single day, okay? So just like yesterday, I'm going to give you homework at the end of our session here today, at the end of our training. A lot of you saw the posts that were so inspirational to really see the posts and to have so many of you women share why you felt that real estate investing was the best for you to be able to reach financial freedom. So what we're going to be talking about over our next couple of sessions is really how to make sure that you are able to have an action plan to find that right, perfect property that you're going to be able to add to your portfolio so that way you can reach financial freedom, all right? That's going to help get us to financial freedom. But what I want to talk about today is where we kind of start moving into that actual action and that ability to be in that piece, okay? So if you are familiar with the concept of imposter syndrome, because I see this pop up all the time for real estate investors and in so many posts here within Lady Landlords. So if you're not familiar, really imposter syndrome is about that idea of when people really have that self-doubt, when they feel like everybody else knows so much more, that everybody else is so much more advanced than they are. And unfortunately, that ends up putting them in a position where they end up cowering and then now are stuck in that analysis paralysis. I know that there are so many people that are on this call here that can really relate to what that looks like. Like I say, I see posts like this all the time. And I really want to talk about this because really most of the women that, actually all the women that I feel like I work with that come into the Lady Landlords Inner Circle are all really joining for kind of one of two reasons, right? One of them is capital, the actual money for investing, and then the other one is actually the confidence side of it. Now, to be honest, and I know this is kind of controversial to say, but in real estate investing, the capital is actually the easy part. Getting the money, that's actually the easy part of what all this is. Finding that monies and being able to invest with that, that's a piece of cake. But that confidence, that being able to overcome that imposter syndrome, well, that is much bigger of a difference. That's something that's much more difficult to be able to overcome. When we have to learn something new, we have to kind of start back at the bottom, right? And I think that gets harder as we get older. I think as when we were younger and you're in school and you have to go learn arithmetic and you have to learn your grammar and all of those different types of things, it's expected. You're in school, you're around other people that are in that same place and you're all learning things at the same time. Unfortunately though, I feel like when we become adults, it's so much more difficult for us to be able to ask for help or to be able to try something that might just be different and be able to say, hey, this is something that I have to kind of start back out at the beginning. By the time we're adults, usually you end up having career success. We end up having family success. We end up really have accomplished so many things usually by the time we get to adulthood. Even if they're little things, those things all add up and really give us that confidence. But now when we start to learn something new, when we start over, we start to feel a lot more lost. Think back, all of a sudden now I'm thinking back to like either a sport I played or the instrument I once tried to play. That did not go well, right? Those are things that is just so uncomfortable that kind of probably is popping up for a lot of us on being able to kind of move forward and try something else that's new. But when we were younger, if we wanted something, we studied it. We practiced it. We learned it. We actually went out and got the support that we could to feel confident as we were able to move forward. And to be honest, real estate investing is really just kind of the same. We have to be able to put that effort in to learn something new, to gain that confidence, to really be able to get the results that we are looking for. Okay, so like I said, there are a bunch of things that popped up that I was thinking about when I was younger that I was like, there was no way I could have ever learned that or been successful. But through school, through getting a teacher, having somebody kind of show me the way, practicing and dedicating myself, that was something that I was able to move forward with. So if there was something that popped in your mind as I was talking about that, I would love to see that. I would love to see somebody just kind of mention something that they felt that once they put in the repetition, the practice, that they really felt that they were able to master that skill set and really increase their confidence as they went forward. So if any lady wants to share something that was triggered in their mind that they thought of back in middle school and high school, that they were able to learn, that they really had to kind of take a risk on, I would love to see it down in the chat. But like I said, this absolutely impacts us in the exact same way within real estate investing. I talked a little bit yesterday on Monday's training about why I love that compound effect within real estate to gain that cash flow. This is something that you really get to start to see within real estate investing with just one door. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I love this, being real estate, but also just the way that the compound effect works. So if you're not familiar with the compound effect is the idea of consistently buying rentals and having that rent naturally increase over time. So you are consistently bringing in money and being able to grow what your portfolio looks like, okay? So let's say you get your feet wet really within real estate investing and landlording before you're really able to grow. What's great about the compound effect is by just having even that one door is you start to learn the ropes. You get to become a better landlord. You get to become a better investor, but it's kind of like on-the-job training, right? You're actually getting paid as you continue to move forward. And that's something that even as a worst case scenario, even if you choose not to actually grow your portfolio, you still get to keep that income, you still get to keep that asset, you still get to keep that equity, and your income will still grow over time, even if you bought no other property. How cool is that? I'm sorry, but there's no other investment that works in that exact same way. That was really actually how I got started in real estate investing. I absolutely was that accidental landlord. I never had an intention. Many of you guys know my story. I'd actually lived in Europe for many years. I used to own a tour company in Spain. I owned a restaurant over in Portugal. My dream was always just to like live on the beach and just kind of have a pretty simple life, to be honest. Even though I will say, looking back on it, probably owning businesses on a beach was not as simple as I thought, right? Many of you know I ended up losing a ton of money, especially in that business that I bought in Portugal, and really had to come home from that. My goal when I came back to the States was actually I went back to cancer research. My goal was really just to save up a whole bunch of money so that way I could move back to being abroad. My goal was never to own a home. I still find that so funny after now owning over 16 properties. I never even wanted to buy one. So I really became that accidental landlord. The way that happened was buying a rental property, buying my own property, buying an owner-occupied primary home for myself and my husband. Really our goal with purchasing that duplex was I wanted to be able to lower my cost of living. Here in New York, things are expensive. So the idea of being able to buy that duplex, and we talked a bit on yesterday's training about that idea of house hacking, where my husband and I lived in one unit and we rented out the other for other tenants. But what that did for us was not only did it lower clearly what our mortgage payments being, but we actually got to live for free. Right? The other unit, which was much larger than ours, that actually had more bedrooms, more bathrooms, those types of things that we were able to rent out, that actually more than covered what the mortgage was. So now in New York City, I got to not only live for free, but I was actually making just a few $100s every single month. That was an absolute game changer. Just for reference, this was able to allow me to save $2,000 every single month. That's how much I paid for a studio apartment in Manhattan in 2018. Okay, think about that for a second. I can't even imagine what that would probably cost me these days. But I was paying $2,000 a month literally for a studio apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan where I could see my kitchen and I could see my bathroom from my bed. Okay, that's how tiny this little box was that I was living in. Now all of a sudden I had a house, I had a backyard, and I was actually getting paid to live there. That made a huge, huge difference, right? Within this scenario, what was really great was that I only had one set of tenants. Like I said, this was actually a duplex that I had bought where I lived in one side and rented out the other. So it gave me the opportunity to really learn how to be a landlord. And it wasn't so overwhelming. I didn't have a ton of units right then, but it really just kind of introduced me to this, and I was actually getting paid to do that. So I'll never forget actually the first problem that popped up with tenants. We were actually really lucky. We had this girl and guy that moved in. They were younger. It was like their first apartment after college, kind of away from their parents with their first real adult jobs, right? That moved into this apartment. So they were young. It made sense. It was a good fit. They moved into this property, but they'd actually rented, it was a 3-bedroom, but it was only just the two of them, right? And they actually weren't a couple. Interestingly enough, years later, and I called it, when I met them, I said to my husband, Amelia, I was like, they so are like in love with each other. They live together in Connecticut, which is just really adorable. When they moved into this place, they had 3 bedrooms, but it was just the two of them, right? So his bedroom was one, her bedroom was the other, and then they used the 3rd bedroom. That was going to be her closet, okay? Totally cool. I don't care what you do with the space. So the first problem that we ever had as landlords is they moved in and she called us within just a couple hours of unpacking her boxes and said, hey, I was unpacking my clothes into the closet in that extra 3rd bedroom and the closet rod broke. So I'm going to ask all you lady landlords what you would do in this situation. And we went up and we looked at it, and it was clear this woman had a lot of clothes, and she completely put way too much stuff on that closet rod. But she just moved in. What am I supposed to do as a landlord? Was it the structural integrity of the closet rod that failed, and that's why it broke? So really it's on me that it was a fault? Was it on her because she overloaded it? So you're sitting there and you're like, well, who's responsible? So I would love to see in the chat if you think this is landlord or tenant. Put down what your answer would be. Do you have to replace the closet rod because it just wasn't strong enough, the proper type of closet rod, and therefore the landlord's responsible to fix that closet rod? Or do you think it was the tenant? Do you think it was misuse, overloading what the closet rod was? So I'm just curious what everybody has to say here. But either put landlord down in the chat or put tenant down in the chat with who you think is responsible for replacing the closet rod. Because this was, to me, just like this weirdest like situation that came up. And thank God it was not something much larger than that. But what we really ended up deciding to do in that situation was kind of option C. What we ended up doing in that space was actually saying, you know what? That was like $20 to be able to go out to get a new closet rod and to make this tenant really happy, especially on day one of her moving in. So honestly, that was something that we completely replaced. Definitely don't think, a fight or an issue with a tenant on day one that's going to be sharing space with you here in this duplex was totally not worth a fight over $20, right? But it was just something that we thought was really interesting that popped up. And it's those types of things that become really a debate, a question that we have to really decide on how that's going to look within how we are running our business within being a landlord. Actually, I'll never forget when Kat actually joined our Inner Circle mentorship. Her and her husband, they just closed on their first property down in New Jersey. Really exciting because that was something, once again, also in this higher cost of living area, very competitive market. We're really, really happy to have her be able to find that first property. But all of the questions I was getting from them during our sessions together was always about the lease and the conditions of it, the laundry, all of those different things. And those things can really be very time consuming. And really what Kat's goal was to grow a portfolio. And it was so interesting how people tend to get very stuck in that tenant management. So my next question for you ladies is, If you are somebody that already owns property, do you feel you spend more time managing tenants or trying to scale your portfolio? Where is the time suck for you? If you already own property, if you're looking to get that next property, if you feel that you are just bogged down with tenant phone calls and repairs and this problem, put the word manage down in the group. If you feel like managing tenants is just really where all of your time is going, that you can't even think about buying another property. If you're somebody that says, no, I got that under control, but I can't figure out how to scale what that next thing looks like, put the word scale down in the chat, okay? So Carla's saying that she's really spends more of her time over in scaling. Shelby's saying the exact same thing. Katie's saying really stuck in tenant management. Jody's saying that scaling her portfolio is harder. Melissa's saying scale. Marianne's saying scale. Anna's also on scale. So it's really interesting to see, because that's really a balance that we have to do as lady landlords. But that's also the second reason that compound effect is something that's so beautiful within real estate investing. The reason for that is because it allows you to continue to increase your income without having more hassles and headaches. One of the key components of landlording is exactly that, tenant management. We have to get to a place where you can really get out of the day-to-day minutia of all these other issues with managing your tenants and start to put efficient systems into place. Having more rental properties does not equal spending more time on tenant management. All because you now are purchasing more properties, you are growing, you have more rental properties, does not mean that you should be spending more time on tenant management at all, okay? The reason for that is because you need to have those systems in place, so then that way, as you scale and purchase more rentals, those rentals are actually just getting dropped right in efficient systems to be able to manage your tenants, okay? I teach this in our inner circle all the time. I personally have 16 rentals at this moment. I actually have them across 2 different countries. Many of you know I own properties throughout New York City and then also in the Dominican Republic. With that, and honestly, I self-manage all of them. So when I'm down in the Dominican Republic, I manage my properties here in New York. When I'm here in New York, I actually manage my properties in the Dominican Republic. And even now with 16 rental properties, I still only spend a few hours every single month managing those rentals. It takes me no more than that, okay? When I used to work back in cancer research, and I worked in clinical trials for about 15 years, really building out systems for efficiency was what I did. That was my role there. And it made sense to continue to kind of move over those skills and those processes over here to my landlording business. And that is exactly what we teach, right? You can be so effective with the same processes and systems, even within other ways that you either manage things within your job or even manage things in your household, okay? Those things are so important to start implementing, especially if you want to scale, right? Because I see this all the time, that women are then saying, well, now that I have this rental property, now I have to deal with this. Now I can't actually manage it as I'm continuing to grow, because I can't manage to grow because I'm too busy in the day-to-day. One of the reasons why I think that's important is because one of the things that I know is an absolute truth here, even in Lady Landlords, we have 50,000 women within our community, okay? But the secret here is that actually none of us actually want to be a landlord. Yes, that is right, 50,000 women, and none of us actually want to be landlords. What we actually want is we just want this to be the vehicle to get us that freedom. Nobody has ever come into this group and been like, you know what I really want to do? I want to plunge toilets. I want to get phone calls every single day. I want to change light bulbs in the middle of the night. No, none of us are actually here for that. Every single one of us is here because we understand the way that using real estate investing as a vehicle to get the other things that we want. Really what people are looking for is to enjoy and improve the quality of life, being able to travel, being able to do things for yourself. I cannot imagine how many of you, if I had asked and said, hey, listen, I can just wave a little magic wand here and give you 15 minutes to sit and to just drink a cup of coffee with nobody asking you where lunch is, with nobody asking you where their shoes are, and I'm not even talking always about kids, sometimes I'm just talking about our partners here, but I guarantee you that I would have women lined up out the door if I said that I had a secret power to give you just 15 minutes in your day to actually just sit and drink a cup of coffee, right? Jen's even saying, I don't want to be a landlord, right? I know that is an absolute truth. That is not why we are here. I got to tell you about Heather. So Heather is a lady landlord here. She actually joined our inner circle last year. She came, as many people do, I've kind of ended up in this niche of really working with people that live in high cost of living areas, that live in really competitive markets. Heather had actually inherited a portfolio from her parents, was very, very fortunate in that situation to have those properties passed down to her, which is so cool. I know so many of our lady landlords are really looking to leave a legacy to their kids. So Heather's mom was definitely the OG in this. But when we were going through her current portfolio, and I kind of said like, okay, great. So, where are your pain points? What monies are you making? She couldn't answer if she was making money, if she was losing money, what those numbers were. Just absolutely none of those things. I was shocked to see, because when you have that and had such a large portfolio, it is so imperative to understand what our numbers look like. But the thing that was almost more concerning to me, beyond the fact that Heather was possibly losing money for God knows how long and didn't even know it, was, to be honest, her quality of life just sucked. Heather was in a place where, since she inherited this portfolio, she felt like she really just was tied to it. She felt like she couldn't go and travel for more than a couple days. She was afraid of just getting phone calls that she was going to have to answer, have to fix, all those different types of things. She always had like her phone on her. It was like attached to her hip, which I get now we get to do with cell phones, but that's not exactly something I want to do with my phone. There are things that I want to go and enjoy in my life, and I don't want to always have to be tied to having that phone there. But Heather was in this place where, honestly, I called her the Lady Landlords firefighter, because all day long there was just this fire and this fire and this fire, and she was just running from alarm bell to alarm bell to still go be able to take care of her tenants, which we absolutely have to do. But there was no space for her to ever understand and get out in front of it and do fire prevention. We had to actually pull her all the way back. We had to restructure everything in Heather's portfolio. We needed to go back and actually put those systems into place. And honestly, one of my own amazing professional accomplishments, some of the things that I was actually really excited for, was that we got to a space where we were actually able to increase Heather's cash flow from her portfolio to actually ensure that she was making money, and good money, every single month. But we actually were able to decrease her time involvement. And no, we did not use a property manager. It was simply systems in place that was able to get her back her time. My personal goal with growing my real estate portfolio has always been to own the least amount of properties with the most amount of money. Okay, I've said this multiple times here. I am never going to be a person that's going to be talking about, oh, I own 50 units, oh, I own 100 units, oh, I need to buy more units. I do not want that. I am all about the cash flow, not about the actual number of properties. The number of doors, the amount of units you have, is not indicative of how much money this person's actually making. The first thing, if anybody's ever gone to a real estate networking event, one of the first questions is always like, oh, how many doors do you have? Okay, how many doors? Great, but I could have 16 doors, somebody can have 50 doors, but yet I could still be having a better cash flow. I can still be making more money. There can also be somebody over there with 3 properties, and yet all of a sudden they're making more money than me. We need to get out of this whole competitive space of who owns the most doors. Show me the receipts. I want to talk cash. So that's why I'm bringing this right back to my compounding effect. Within that cash flow compounding effect, what's amazing is that you have those options to scale that you maybe thought you didn't have. But with the compounding effect, this is something that actually does give you those options to be able to scale and scale easily. What I love about it is also you have the ability to decide if you want to scale quickly, which I know a lot of you do, or also scale in a more conservative space. Now, there is no right or wrong answer to that, okay? One of the things that I think is amazing about real estate investing is everybody has the opportunity to be successful at it, and everybody has the opportunity to really find their own path, their own way for it to really work for them. The only thing that's wrong is if you're doing things that do not sit right with you. If you were chasing other people's dreams, if you were saying, oh, well, she did it that way, so no, I have to do it that way, you were doing it wrong, right? There is a customized solution for every single lady out there that will really work with what you need to be able to do to grow your portfolio, okay? So that's something that I see so many people here get stuck in this place where there'll be a post and somebody's gonna make a post saying like, oh, I had success, I was able to grow my portfolio by doing this, and then everybody else is like, cool, I'm gonna now go do that too. Well, I'm here to tell you, let's stop chasing other people's dreams. We need to focus on what Jen wants to do, what Shelby wants to do. Each of you have the opportunity to really make this work for you and for you specifically. So the only thing you can do wrong is by hopping on a bandwagon and chasing what other people want to do. Okay? I actually get a lot of people that'll reach out to me. Many of you guys have my phone number. You text me every single day. I get messages. I get emails from so many different members here. And I get a lot of people that are like, well, Becky, like, what exactly did you do? Cool. And I am open about my story. If you've ever listened to our podcast, I give you the numbers. I'm telling you how I'm saving my money, what monies I'm spending, what monies I'm making, all of that. But all because something worked for me does not mean it's going to work for you. That's why really what we do in our Lady Landlords Inner Circle is we really help build out customized plans for women, because what's going to work for Shelby is going to be different than what's going to work for me. And you have to get really, really clear on how a plan is going to be tailored to you. Okay? So listen, I don't ever care if you do not join the Inner Circle. I just want you to get the help that you want. And my only advice to you is just do not go out and buy those cookie cutter courses. Okay? They're not going to give you the answer there. They're going to give you just generic education, but they're not going to actually tell you what Jen needs to do, or what Mary Ann needs to do, or what Jessica needs to do. And that's really the support and the help that you need. Okay? So when it comes back to that, what I want you to think about is, would you rather give this a try? Would you rather go for this? Would you rather say, like Jade wants to, I'm going to attempt, I'm going to do my best to try to be able to leave that legacy? Or, no, I'm not going to give it a try. I'm just going to sit here, I'm going to keep educating myself, and I'm going to be stuck in analysis paralysis. I actually just did an Instagram live. If anybody's over on Instagram, I'd love to connect with you. You can find me at TheBeckyNova on Instagram, where I had an interaction with somebody that was kind of saying like, oh, but Becky, like, you're way too out of the box. You tried these different things. You want to go live abroad. And I was telling my story about when I moved to Spain. And that person was like, what do you mean you quit your job? What do you mean you quit your career? How are you going to pay taxes? How are you going to figure out how to turn on the electric when I moved to Spain? All these other questions about like the little like details. And they were just kind of saying like, no, that's way too risky, Becky. There's no way I could go live abroad, right? There's no way I can go invest in real estate. My response, when we were talking about this Instagram live, was I was actually saying, to me, the real risk takers are actually the people that do nothing. Okay? I've seen, and I'm not going to call out names and names here, but I've been seeing people that have been in this group now for years, that every year their New Year's resolution, that's it, this is my year. I'm going to buy a rental property in 2023. Then at the beginning of 2024. Now we are on July 16th in 2024, and they still don't have a property, they still don't have a plan, they still don't have the financing, they still don't have the education, and they don't have the confidence. They need to actually take those steps. That makes me more sad, right? People think it's nuts when I always talk about how when I moved home to the States after I lost my business in Spain, people are like, oh my God, that's horrible. You lost a ton of money. You must be so sad. You must be so upset. You must be so depressed that you lost your business. And I kind of wasn't. I really wasn't. Still to this day, that wasn't something that like ever like stuck with me. The reason for that was because I tried. I went out there. Cool. Was I not happy with the result? Yeah. Cool. It hurt. It stung. Hurt my pride a little bit to lose money like that and to lose my business and my dream. But you know what? I went out and I did it. I gave it a try, and I said, you know what? This is worth it to me. I am worth it to me. I am going to do this, and I'm not going to regret the chance that I actually tried to be able to do something. We talked on Monday's training about how really in life there are two certainties, right? There are taxes and there's death. My reminder to you all is we have limited time here, right? And I want you to really make sure that you make every minute count with something that you absolutely love. So, tell me, which do you find to be riskier? Trying something new or doing nothing at all? So, down in the chat, let me see. If you feel that trying something new is riskier, put new down. If you feel that doing nothing and just letting life pass you by year after year after year, put the word nothing down in the chat. Tell me which one you find to be riskier. I'm very curious. But I got Marianne already saying nothing. I have Jen saying anybody can do this. Jody is saying nothing, right? The loss of not doing something over time is going to be worse. Susie's saying that, Jennifer's saying nothing, Helen's saying nothing, Stephanie's saying nothing, Alina's saying nothing, Shelby, exact same, nothing is riskier. Sarah's saying nothing, Flock is saying nothing, Angela. So, ladies, this is what your homework's going to be today, okay? Right now, in this very moment, I am waving my magic wand for you, okay? We are now in year 2034, and congratulations, you now are all successful lady landlords, okay? Here's what you're gonna do for homework number 2. And I want you to write just a few sentences to yourself from 2034 back to yourself today as a successful real estate investor. I want you to tell yourself what life looks like. What are you doing? Are you still at your day job? You still living in the same place? What does your average day look like? Do you now get that 15 minutes for that cup of coffee every morning? Where are you living? How does it feel to be a successful real estate investor? Okay? Then we are going to talk about how we're going to create that life for you. Okay? So day number 3, we're going to start talking about now next steps with that homework. All right? So you have your homework assignment, and you're going to write that letter to yourself, just a few sentences on what life looks like and how amazing 2034 is going to be as a successful real estate investor. All right. See you all soon.
Thank you for listening to the Lady Landlords Podcast. If you're feeling stuck in your real estate investing journey, visit lady-landlords.com to book a 15-minute orientation call with me and see if you're ready to join our mentorship program. Or you can subscribe to our newsletter and join our Facebook group for exclusive real estate investing tips and offers. Invest with confidence. Become a Lady Landlord today.